Alright, hey folks, last video I showed you how Blackstar Tech Tool works in practice when you run it. Today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through the code here a little bit and just give you a general idea of how the program's laid out, how it works, and how I set up the installer as well. I'm still not certain that I want to release the installer that I've created, the actual inno setup script, because it does have some things in there that normally in the inno setup forums they recommend against, but it just ended up working well for my program. I will almost certainly upload it at some point. But today we're just going to focus on the program itself and how the installer works. So let's go ahead and open up Blackstar. Alright, so in the actual Blackstar Alpha directory, almost everything that we care about is located under Resources, App, and this is all the stuff that I wrote, minus the node modules. So Blackstar Alpha is written in a language called, I don't know if it's technically a language, it's written in Electron. Basically what Electron is it allows you to wrap HTML files and JavaScript into usable executable programs, excuse me. And what I've got here, and like I said, for the most part, this started off as a collection of HTA files, which are a very old school Windows way of wrapping programs in HTML files that focus a lot on VB script. So there's a lot of VB script and JavaScript mixed up in here, and that's likely not going to change for a while. I'm slowly learning how to do the rest of it, and I will eventually have this converted, I think, into fully self-contained without relying so much on batch and VBS scripts. But to start with, we don't need this stuff open. Alright, so the Blackstar.html and the main.js right here are the most important core parts of the program. So main.js is the actual JavaScript that controls all the programs. I don't know what a lot of this means. I know I got it working. But basically what I can tell you is that right here we tell it to set the initial window size, and you can change this if you do want to have it larger or smaller. And then here, that's the icon link, and then down here we actually create the window, and you'll see that's pointing to bin hta blackstar.html. And that's the most important part of this. I do have this under here, I have this under here that tells it that if someone tries to open a second instance of the program, to just bring the first program to the forefront, so you don't end up with a bunch of different opened files. So Blackstar.html, like I said, is the big bad backbone of this whole thing. Actually, let's see how many lines this is. So that's 644 lines. I don't think that's actually the longest script that I've got in here. I think the malware script is longer, but it does a lot. And as you can see, it's just a regular HTML file. We've got our CSS here, which again is very sloppy, and I will be getting around to cleaning it up, maybe eventually. Okay, so more stuff. We got some JavaScript here for the tabs on the page. We have the call for the survey generator, some stuff that allows it to minimize, since I'm not using a Windows frame just because I think it's kind of ugly and I wanted to see what I could do without using the Windows frames, so I had to define how that all works. Here we've got our help, minimize, and close buttons. And then that's where we start talking about the tabs on the top, the utilities, sysinfo, and diagnostics tabs. Yeah, this was running great before I started recording, but as soon as I start recording, everything kind of chugs down on this machine. So as you can see, we got the system info tab, we got the utilities tab, and the diagnostics tab all right there. And then down here, we just define what's underneath the tabs. The first tab is literally just an iframe that loads the sysinfo.html file. And then below that we have the second tab, the Utilities tab. And this stuff's all pretty straightforward. And the Diagnostic tab looks almost exactly the same. Just the exact same functions, calling the exact same things. And we'll get down to the bottom of this, and then I'll show you how the scripts work on that. Then we have the right-hand bar. We've created a new div, and that's, like I said, to the right over here. And the CSS is what I've got set up to let everything glow and to put the outline on things when you mouse over it. And again, it's a little laggy here in the virtual machine, but it does work great in Windows. I'm currently running Parallels and Coherence mode, which allows me to run the Windows apps just in Mac OS. It seems to run a little bit smoother this way for some reason, so it's probably how I'm going to do it in the future as well. Alright, so this is the bottom of the HTML file. The actual HTML is only 416 minus whatever the other scripts at the top were. The scripts for the Electron stuff, for whatever reason, and I'm sure there's a real reason for it, will not work until it's placed after the function that it's calling, so I just put all the scripts at the bottom of the page. And I think they're mostly in order. I tried to do good with this. Alright, so I did the right sidebar first, and I do have it noted what everything is. And as you can see, this initialize script function, which is called on by the initialize script link, right over here, is just calling an explorer.exe file to run a bat. I do have some that do not run through explorer.exe, and you can run them directly through cmd.exe as well, but some of them I wanted to hide the window. I wanted to hide the command frame so you didn't see what was going on there, just made it run a little bit smoother. And for those, you can see that there's actually a run.vbs file that is called on by wscript.exe, so you do run a VBS script. Like I said, there's still a lot of the old VBS stuff in here. So it calls the VBS script, and then it loads the bat to run from that. And if we take a look at the run.vbs, it's also very simple. It literally just tells it to run a command, but that hides it. That hides the window, and it hides it in the background, so you don't see what's actually running on there. Let's see, I don't think anything else here is particularly special. I think they're all pretty much like that. They're either just bat files run through a VBS, bat files run through Explorer, or in some cases, under the Utilities tab, we can see here that it actually just runs them directly. Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, so for things like the exe files in the util folder with the download during the initialize script, you will see them here, and it's just set to run the exe file directly. So we don't have to run through a batch file, we don't have to run through the VBS script. And then event viewer, you can just, if you can hit it in the run window, you can usually put it here in the spawn process. For some reason, there are some things that don't work. I could not get HTA files to load through mshta.exe, so I did have to create batch files to run those. It was pretty strange. To give you an example of that, let's go here. I do have them under run. I kept them separate from the rest of the batch files just so I knew what the meat was versus just what are just basic things. You can see here we've got, yeah, I've got this malware script.bat. And literally all this does is call mshta.exe to run this. Why I'm able to run VBS scripts through wscript.exe, but I am not able to run HTAs through mshta.exe, I do not understand. But for now, it's fine. We can ignore that. My cat's snoring. So let's go through this. Those run bat files are all like that. They're all very, very simple. They don't do a whole lot. They literally just run whatever program is there. This folder.bat, this one was particularly frustrating to me because I can get Explorer to open batch files, but for whatever reason I could not get Explorer just to open the folder that we're in. I tried a lot on there, so I had to create this batch file just to get it to run in the folder. Just cd is current directory, that's all it does. It just opens up where it's run from. So that's Blackstar.html. And like I said, there are a couple HTA files here that are absolutely massive. The The QA, actually the QA is a .bat file, which is also massive. But let's look at the malware scripts HTA. This one is also quite large. 783 lines. It's a big boy. And I will, at some point, make a video just for this file, so we can go through and I'll show you how to customize it and get everything working the way you want it to. You can see at the very top, since these are HTA files, they are very old school Windows stuff. Part of the issue with HTA files is that they do load and render on the screen, and you can see the windows pop into frame. So at the very top here, we have a script that I lifted from Steve Robertson. This literally just tells the HTA file to load off screen and then recenter itself on the screen. So it's pretty neat. I never would have thought of that. I'm glad Steve's out there and he's sharing that stuff online. I have some old functions here that are not necessary anymore, and I will eventually get around to cleaning that up as well. But it's just a pain in the ass right now to do it. So these are VB script entries here. They're marked by subs, and for the sub window on load, this basically just tells it to center the screen and what size to be. Checkboxes is where things get really wild. So you can see here we're telling it to write to an HTML file. No, we're telling it to write to a bat file, actually. So we're generating a bat file, excuse me. So we're writing to malware.bat. And what this does is it just echoes this entire content to a bat file. From down here, the functions for the checkboxes in the main malware removal window. So if you click on malware tools here, you'll see that we've got checkboxes for each one of these apps, and the checkboxes are obviously checkbox 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. You see VS Code that I'm using for this right now doesn't recognize this as Visual Basic because it's saved as an HTA file, which I have viewed as HTML. So this is actually a comment line if you start it with the single parenthesis. So I'm not certain. I don't care. It's fine. It all works just fine. But yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff underlined here. But what it does is it just writes these Choco. It'll write these Choco lines and tell it just to upgrade packages. You don't want to use install because if it notices that it's already installed, it just kind of skips it, versus upgrade will upgrade it if a newer version is available and also install it if it's not there. So when you're automating, you always want to use the upgrade line in Choco. So we've got Choco, upgrade, and on a couple of these we have ignored checksum. And I think Malwarebytes has fixed this already, but ADW Cleaner has not, so I'm leaving them for now. So it ignores the checksum on them, which is generally dangerous, but these Choco scripts, they do download directly from the manufacturers of the software. So I've used these scripts thousands of times on thousands of machines, and I've never had a problem with it. I've never gotten a bad copy of the software, so that's not that big of a deal. So as you can see, we have each one here sorted, and it's lining up with something here in the window. Most of these anti-malware utilities I don't use so much anymore. For the most part, Windows 10 is a lot more resistant to malware than Windows 7 was. Even Windows 8 is a really nice operating system. It's just the horrible start menu. But if you've got something weird and exotic, we've got everything here. Normally when I'm running a diagnostic on a customer's machine, I just do Malwarebytes, ADW Cleaner, and Hitman Pro. Malwarebytes and ADW Cleaner basically get everything, at least the most important stuff. And then now we get to the next line where we once again see checkboxes, and this is just telling it that if the program installed successfully, it just checks the start menu to see if the shortcut link is there, to then run that shortcut link. And this has worked really, really well for me, actually. I haven't had any major problems with it yet. So I think this is all going to work out fine. Some of the portable stuff installs to the chocolatey folder instead of to its own place. So you can see here, I'm telling it just to look there instead. And I had to look all the stuff up manually. I had to reinstall this stuff dozens of times to see where exactly they went on different architectures. And it seems they're pretty much always in the same place. So that's good. It's made the script fairly simple. All right, and then we get to the uninstall portion, which again you can see I've commented out. It's just there so I can see it. And it's almost exactly the same thing. It just generates a batch file, and then if you have the checkbox checked, it just adds the uninstall. Oh wait, no, I think I skipped a line there. Yeah, okay, so we're not to... This is incorrect, actually. That's a big dummy bummer. So we get into there. Okay, here we go. Here's the uninstall. Excuse me, I need to recomment my lines because this is not good. From here, this will allow the uninstallers to run. Again, a couple programs I kind of had to manually put in there. The Choco uninstallers don't really work really well. So for Malwarebytes here, you can see I've got it running the Malwarebytes uninstaller just with the silent tags. And then I have Choco go ahead and do the uninstall anyway, just to get rid of the script so it doesn't get confused if you try to reinstall it through Choco again. And again, Spybot is weird too. I had to set Spybot to manually uninstall. And if you actually do uninstall Spybot through the script, it will pop up and warn you that you have to click on some stuff. It's the one installer here that's not completely automated. All right, and then here it just for either the install or run, it'll run the exact same batch script because they both just start them at the end. And then for uninstall, it runs. They're both called malware.bat. They're both generated, but they're deleted as soon as they're run. So that doesn't matter too much. And then here's just the HTML for the page. And you can see the checkboxes are just named checkbox. Then we got checkbox 1, 2, 3, and those correspond to what we did earlier at the top of the script. And again, let's see, the usability software is pretty much exactly the same. It's just the exact same script, just not nearly as long because it doesn't have the uninstall function. Systeminfo.html is what's actually generated when you run the initialize script. Run initialization there, and I think we'll go check out initialization right now. I'm kind of jumping around in order of how much I care about things and how excited I was to write them and get them working. The initialize script is very old, at least parts of it are. This initial part here where it looks up system information, and you'll see this at the top of the lot of the batch files, and this just checks to make sure we have admin privileges when we're running them so that things don't fail. And I have a lot of commented out code here. This is all old stuff that I had to set up before I figured out how to use PowerShell to run applications. I'm kind of leaving it there for posterity. I can get rid of it. Again, I will get to that at some point. And we don't generate sysinfo.txt anymore. That's also another thing. It's all throwbacks to the old HTA files these things used to be built around. So we pull all the variables here for the system manufacturer model, serial number, all of this. It's all just something where we're just pulling information to fill out the sysinfo.hta file, which again, to remind you, is this. This is a sysinfo.hta. So we just pull the variables from Windows. Here we actually make backups of the startups. So we get a registry backup of everything that's in there. We copy the files from the startup folder items, and we back up the services configuration in the registry so that if you screw something up, you'll always be able to restore things back. And that'll be in the regback folder. Resources, app. Regback. So under regback here, and again, we're working from the installer, so that's really not what's going on here. But that's all there. Actually, I think I have it installed, so I can actually show you. So under program files, Blackstar Tech Tool, once again, resources, app, regback. So you can see here that we have everything backed up. We got the folder items backed up. That's the Parallels toolbox that I've got running on this virtual machine. Then we have the different startup entries for 32 and 64-bit, as well as the services configuration. And then it just writes the HTML file. Figuring out how to get a batch file to write an HTML file will forever be one of the stupidest, most complicated things I've ever done. And it works shockingly well once you figure out how to get everything working. There's almost certainly a cleaner way to do this, but this is the way I figured it out. I will try at some point to get around this and do something else with it, but it seems to work for now, so I don't have any major issues with it. Then it begins the actual initialization portion after writing the HTML file. First thing it does here is it checks for an internet connection. It just pings out to Google's DNS IP, and if it cannot ping to that, it just says no internet connection detected, warns you about it. If you know your internet's working, for whatever reason it just can't ping, don't know why, I've actually had it happen a couple times. And then it will detect if it is running Windows 7, 8, or 10. And if it's unsupported, it will just warn you that it's unsupported. It will let you continue to go on. Windows 8 and 10, again, are the only ones that it doesn't complain about. Like I said, I have used this a little bit on Windows 7, and it does seem to work for the most part, but I don't test on it. I wouldn't recommend it. And if you find someone running Windows 7, get them off Windows 7. It's time. Microsoft goes updates next month, and then there's no more security updates for it. And then it asks you if you want to install the free and non-free software. I'm thinking about taking away this question and just forcing it to install, just so you know that you get all the software. But at the same time, these softwares do have their own licenses on them, and I'm trying to keep things above board on this for the most part. So if you decide not to install it, it'll whine, tell you, are you sure you want to not install it? And then it will tell you to run the initialization script if you decide to do it later, if you ultimately decline. So we'll just go through here. This is how the initialization script works. And this is just a very rudimentary progress bar that I set up to work on here. So let's go ahead. I'll run the initialization and show you why all of this is as goofy looking as it is. Ooh, audio's really lagging today. Okay. So here it's just collecting the system information. It's going to run through and do that. Install free and non-free software. I have already installed the software, so I'm going to go ahead and no. Am I sure? I am sure. Oh, wait. I guess the progress bar doesn't matter if I don't install the software, huh? That's the entire point of what I was trying to show you there. Jackass. Yeah, I'm not super smart, so I kind of wing a lot of this stuff. Shockingly, I know. So we do want to install the free and non-free software. What you see here is you just see a progress bar as Windows goes through and runs all the different chocolatey scripts to install this stuff. Like I said, all this stuff is already installed, so this will probably fly by pretty quick. Except for the stuff that's portable, it will reinstall it and then recopy it, which is just kind of a silly thing. But it's what I had to do to get it all as portable as possible, and yeah, it works really well. So it runs through, and that now you can see what this progress bar is about here. It just echoes a new screen every time it finishes an install. It's very, very rudimentary, but I think it works fine. It gets the point across. And then here you can see it just copying stuff to the utility folders, so we can have that all in a different place. Then I'll uninstall everything here. If I think to look back at it, we will check back on that while that's going. So yeah, that's the initialize script, and that's really all it does. It just populates this HTML file so that you have some system information, and it downloads all these utilities so that we can do everything else here, except for the tweaking.com repairs, which I will eventually show you as well. And obviously MD-SCED is built into Windows, so that's not what's going on with that one either. Okay, so we did the malware bytes and usability software. Create restore point. Create restore point's kind of a hybrid file. It will install or set up restore points through both BAT and PS1 files. So I'll show you both of those here. Alright, so under the batch here, we say we have the restore points.bat, and this is actually what the program calls. And again, we do have our admin script here at the top to make sure we're running as administrator. So right here, this just adds a line to the registry, allowing me to create more than one system restore point every 24 hours. Because when you're working on a machine, sometimes you need to do that. And then here it sets the system restore size limit to 3% of the full drive. And this is run through ps-exec, which comes with the Microsoft sysinternals package. Because I couldn't figure out how to make it work through a batch file unless I ran it through ps-exec. Very strange, but it does work. And since I wanted auto runs, which is also in that, then it was fine. I had to download the whole thing anyway, so we just kept it. Then I'll ask you if you want to delete the restore points. And again, that's through a VBS script, which is deleted as soon as it's run. And then here, once again, we're running through ps-exec to delete the restore points, and then ask if you want to create a restore point. And from here, if you do want to create a restore point, it'll come through. You can see here PowerShell.exe is calling on ps .ps make rp1 make rp.ps1, and then we'll go to our ps file here. We've only got 2 here. I don't have a lot of PowerShell or VBS scripts yet. A lot of the stuff is hacked together in batch, but batch is still well supported, so it works. This is just kind of, oh god, this script is incredibly old. So I really haven't gone through and done the cleanup on it yet. This is supposed to enable system restore if it's disabled. I don't know if it still works, and this is supposed to allow me to create restore points every day. I don't know if that still works. I know that it works through the batch file, so that's how I leave it. And then this just is another command to enable it. So we clear the windows so you don't have all that junk coming up. This is just for flashing colors on the screen, and that's how I get it to blink system restore will automatically finish once automatically run once restore point completes. Then it creates the checkpoint with the date. And if you want to customize the name of the checkpoint, if you have your own business name that you want to put on there, or anything else, this is where you would modify that. You just change this Blackstar checkpoint. I would always recommend leaving the get date on there because you want to have dates. Let's see, where are we at on this now? It should be to clean up by now. No, it's not to clean up by now. Alright, so let's get back to Blackstar. So, what's next on the line? Windows Update is literally just a batch file. It calls for Windows Update. Very, very, very simple. wupdate.bat here. Just runs control.exe, runs Windows Update. I used to have a different script that went through and detected which version of Windows it was on, and then I found this command works on all versions of Windows. So we'll just leave that there for now. Check browsers is a dumb batch file that I do not like, but it does the job. Basically all it does is it checks to see if different folders exist, and then it runs the browsers. So it's very straightforward. I don't know if Brave, Opera, or Vivaldi ever install in different places, but from my tests, this is where they installed. I don't use these browsers. I kind of don't recommend people use those browsers. They're all based on Chrome anyway, but if that's what you're into, I guess that's what you're into. The create review link is another kind of hybrid. Actually, no, it's not a hybrid at all, is it? No, survey.vbs is the bones for that one. This virtual machine. Come on, man, get out of my face. All right, so again, very simple VB script. We just set a URL for it to append to up here, then right to the desktop, so it'll know to copy it all to the desktop. So the very first thing it does is it opens the Place ID Finder in a web browser. Literally just tells it to run, so it'll open whatever the default web browser is, and then it asks you, it tells you to find it in there with the system modal tag here. It will always be on top of other windows. And then once you hit OK on that, it will actually pop up the window asking you for the ID number. And then it just creates it on the desktop. See, it says desktop path, copy over there. And then we got some descriptions. And the icon that I chose, I just went through the Windows System 32 directory to just find something that looked kind of checklisty. It works. Then we've got the QA script, which is large. The QA.bat is probably the file that I have pulled the least from the internet to do. This is my most original script. Super pain in the ass. So you can see we set all these different things here. Some of these are no longer used, and I just have not had the time to go through and clean them up. I'm doing this by myself for free, so it works, and I don't feel like cleaning it. Basically, all this does is it creates a lot of little tiny VBS files that ask you questions, and then it marks them based on the error level of the yes, no, cancel, or just yes, no options, and it'll set these different little variables here for us. And there's a lot of them. And you can see I've got some questions that I've taken out because they don't really apply anymore. And you can see here where I used to have this thing delete the most recently used entries, and that was a line that would piss off a lot of antivirus programs. And also, I don't care about deleting most recently used entries. It's the customer's computer. They can put on there what they want on there. Okay, so we get to the end. Success. This is where it will pop up the QA-notes.hta page, which is another fairly complicated, and complicated in that I don't understand it. I kind of copied it from something I found on the internet. And that just gives you a text box to type into. It writes it to a text file, and then this script will read from that text file, extract the data from it, and then delete the text file once it's put in there. Here we just set it so it knows what the date is for the name of the HTML file. That's just some, this is something I just lifted from the internet as well. So this is a big dump of HTML. And basically what it does is, and here is where it writes the notes.txt file to the page so that you have the notes on the ultimate HTML page. If you watch the first video, you'll see what that looks like. Okay, and then under here, we start doing the ifs. If you hit cancel on an option, it will skip these. So it will not put in the lines about is the battery installed on a desktop, and it will not put the lines in for system fans if there's no system fans, and so on and so on. Don't feel like I need to explain that too much. You guys understand what we're doing here. Well, maybe you don't, but once you poke through here, you will figure it out. Oh, actually, there was something else that I forgot to put in here, wasn't there? There was something about processes. I noticed it when I was watching the video that it did not fill in the processes. Processes, yes. I want to add a line for that variable, which the processes variable you will see I defined up here at the very top. Set processes right there. Let me go ahead and find where I defined it on here. So this basically just pulls from WMIC, the Windows Management Interface. Then it just sets how many processes are running. It's very simple. It takes no input on your end. And I've got that fixed now. I will have to test that before I roll it out into the final program. I am getting ready right now, actually, to set up the installers. Currently, what I've got set up is all 64-bit. So I do have the 64-bit installers. I'm going to set it up as 32-bit as well. The 32-bit software, if you run it on 64-bit, a lot of the scripts will not work. So I'm going to recommend highly against that. But and also, I don't have any 32-bit machines to test on, so I'm just kind of like hoping that it all works. Almost everything I see nowadays is 64-bit. But I do almost have the installers ready. I'm just working on the last bit of tweaking on that. And I'll have the installer version and the portable version ready at the same time. And that's all originally just going to be updated on my webpage, Blackstar.su. That's SU. That will be downloadable as exe files and a zip file if you just want to poke through the source, use the portable version. I'm trying to get signed up on GitHub. GitHub hates me, and it will not send me my notification text to verify who I am. So I still don't have that set up, and it's not all my fault. So, yeah, that's that. And then this is where it will copy to the desktop, copies the file that we made to the desktop. And then I'll let you know about that. I used to have it so it just opened up the HTML file at the end, but I've done enough testing now that I know that it's always flawless. It works. The script is pretty good. Let let's see, was there anything else that I really felt like I needed to go over here today? I will eventually get into the help files, and then I will also show you exactly what needs to be changed and where. I've given you a little quick rundown on how to add stuff, but I will be doing tutorial videos because there is software that I want to add to the usability software script. Particularly I want to add VS Code because I've been using VS Code instead of Notepad++ lately, and VS Code is just a much better program. I feel a lot less amateur hour already just looking at my pretty black program. So thanks Microsoft, I guess. Yeah, and I think that's going to be it for now. Like I said, I am just about ready to release the installers. I just have a little more tweaking to do on that so I can separate the 64 and 32-bit installers. And I'll include the zip portable when I get there as well. And anyways, that was it for today. Thank you so much.